Joining me now, Fiona Hill, former White House advisor on Russia. She is the author of the new book, There Is Nothing for You Here, Finding Opportunity in the 21st Century, which comes out tomorrow. Dr. Hill, thank you for being here. Thank you for writing this book. You've been studying Russia and authoritarian regimes for decades. You're trained to recognize the signs of a nation spiraling toward authoritarianism in a way that the rest of us are not, which is why no one should take lightly when you write in this book, quote, Russia is America's ghost of Christmas future, a harbinger of things to come. For me, watching Trump's disorganized but deadly serious attempt at a coup unfold over the course of 2020, the clearest and most unmistakable parallels were with Russia, end quote. So I ask you, what, to your trained eye, are some of those parallels?
Well, thank you, first of all, Ali, for having me on tonight. There are sadly many parallels, and I think anybody who is even the most casual student of Russia would see them right away. One of the most striking, in fact, is actually unfolding with an anniversary almost today, in fact. Back in 1993, in October 1993, President Yeltsin of Russia fired on his parliament, what was known as the Russian White House, after a constitutional dispute with his own vice president and also the Speaker of the Parliament over excessive powers for the presidency in an amendment of the Constitution. And instead of resolving this in the way that one would hope and would expect in a constitutional manner or through political debates, Yeltsin actually turned the guns of the Russian military onto the White House, onto the Russian Parliament. I mean, that was a pretty striking, rather shocking episode. And of course, the Parliament capitulated and President Yeltsin rammed through his version of the Constitution, which gave the presidency greater powers. I mean, in a way, that is a parallel with what happened on January 6th, when President Trump was trying to pervert the course of the Constitution to keep himself in power. I mean, there are many similarities like this. And of course, it's really jarring when you think about the United States starting to resemble anything like post-Soviet Russia.
Well, this is why the book was such a good read, because these things come to mind for you immediately. They don't come to mind for a lot of Americans because we don't have those parallels. One of the things that was compelling was that you wrote that in 2020, our democracy did hold the line. The military, the courts, the vice president of the United States refused to go along with Trump's attempted coup. Is that to you a sign of the resilience of our democracy or a sign of the fragility of our democracy, that that's how close we came to democracy falling?
Well, I think it's a bit of both, but actually you did miss out there, although you actually talked about it in your overview, what happened on Capitol Hill in Congress. Because what we saw, however, was certainly members of the Republican Party not live up to their oaths to the Constitution or to their commitments to their constituents of the places that they represent, because so many of the members of Congress, with just a few small exceptions of the congressional Republicans, went along with President Trump's lies. And if we also look back at Russia and other authoritarian governments, what it takes is one political party or one particular grouping actually deciding that they're going to throw their lot in with a would-be authoritarian leader. And if other institutions had gone along, we'd be in a very different position from where we are now. So
you actually are very clear in the book about the fact that the threat to democracy is still very much alive with or without Donald Trump, and that you actually argue that maybe Trump paved the way for a more competent populist to pull, as you call it in your book, pull a Putin in this country. I think some people, maybe some of Rachel's own viewers here, breathed a sigh of relief when Trump left the White House. What would you say to those people who think it's okay, he's gone?
Well, it isn't okay, because the big lie that he perpetrated in saying that he had won the election in 2020, when every piece of evidence suggests and underscores and confirms that he did not, is being perpetuated by members of Congress, by him. He has never repudiated anything that he said. He's not conceded that he lost the election. And this is, again, another of those signs that we're in deep trouble, because millions of people have been convinced, because of the president's own credibility as being the president of the United States, and clearly somebody who people voted for, and obviously somebody who they looked up to, somebody who's been telling them over and over again an enormous lie. We're already in the territory that has been paved many times before through history by countries like Germany, Nazi Germany, and also the Soviet Union. People will say, oh, of course, here we go again, people making these kinds of comparisons. But these are valid historical comparisons. And in each case, people who told themselves that they were doing the right thing in their support of a particular group went along with what became the beginnings of massive atrocities and also the perversion of democracy.
For an economic journalist like me, there's a lot in your book that's about economics, your upbringing in northeastern England, and the changes that you have witnessed and studied. It's very clear that you understand the impulse that so many voters had to vote for Donald Trump. You've got a grasp on why so many people really did believe that their lives would be better with someone like him in charge. That impulse has not died with the Trump presidency. What's the antidote to this? It's not even a uniquely American problem. It's in your home country of England. It's all over the world.
Yeah, well, sadly, we've just started to prove that America is not exceptional. You know, I would have liked to have thought that we could do better than this, as, you know, many of our really principal leaders have said, but we've actually shown that we can go down the same path. We're not immune to flawed leadership, and we're certainly not immune to eroding and undermining our best institutions. But the socioeconomic aspects of this are really critical, because mainstream parties, both the Republicans and the Democrats, have failed to address many of the problems of the majority of Americans that they would like to see actually fixed for them. And this gave an opening to President Trump and to other populist leaders to basically say, OK, I'm listening, I'm hearing what you're saying, and I'm going to basically fix everything for you. It's not so simple. But, of course, the wrangling that we're seeing going on right now on Capitol Hill between the congressional Republicans and Democrats over the future of the infrastructure bill and the reconciliation bill that President Biden is trying to push through really underscores the problems that we have, because many of the issues that are covered in that bill are the things that the majority of Americans would actually like to see their government basically undertake for them. Yeah, and like to see their representatives carry out. And, you know, we're seeing that there's just no political will to do that.